All right, here we go. All right, Jeff Mizanskey, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic.
Excellent. So I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me. For the listeners, we're at the Mo Can BizCon here in St. Louis at was it Union Station?
Union Station.
Yeah, this place I've never. You know what? I live here. I'm actually originally from like the Potosi area. We kind of talked about that a little bit, and then I grew up in Jefferson City, so not too far from where you're at in Sedalia. But I've been living here for quite some time now, and I've never been here. This is a really cool place.
Oh, it's beautiful. Big, beautiful, and
Yeah,
I don't think I've seen it all yet.
yeah. Have you did you check out that light show last night?
Oh, it was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, that was super cool. They had, I think one time it was like giant goldfish, and another time it was, I don't know, like a big planet.
And then with the big gears on the side.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was
those gears are really neat.
moving. Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, man. So this is a really cool space. I think it's awesome to be here and to be around all the people who are really trying to like make change in the area, especially as far as in the cannabis space because like we were talking a little bit beforehand, this plant has helped so many people. But there is a downside to it, right? As far as not the plant itself, but the laws surrounding the plant has hurt so many people, and that's the basis of your story. So I really wanted to have you on and share your story with folks. For the listeners, you were wrongfully imprisoned essentially for 21 years. You were facing life without parole. So can we just go back to the beginning a little bit and start the beginning with your story? I know you've shared this probably 1,000 times since you've been out, and yeah. So where would you like to begin and share your story?
Well, first of all, it's really hard to believe that we're sitting here in a business conference for marijuana right here in Missouri,
Yeah,
right in St. Louis.
yeah. How does that feel for you?
It's amazing. It's fantastic. What makes it so fantastic is how many people are going to be able to be helped.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and I always try to tell people that we're not only helping the ones that are out here and being able to help themselves because of being able to smoke or use cannabis the way they need to, but let's not forget all of our people that we still have behind bars.
Right. Yeah.
Because they need the help now.
Yeah.
They need to be out here. We need to get all the arrests stopped on these marijuana cases, and we the people can do it because the government works for us. We don't work for the government.
Right.
And if we don't do it, something that happened to me might happen to some of the listeners. We just end up in courts, jails, courts, and then eventually prison.
Right.
Now, I ended up in 1993, I got arrested for marijuana. I got sentenced in 1994 to a life sentence. After I was in there for a while, I found out with the numbers they put on my paperwork that it ended up being a life
Without parole.
without parole, right.
Now, was that common at the time?
I was actually the only one in Missouri ever to get sentenced with that sentence off of marijuana.
Now,
And since then,
Mhm.
it can't happen anymore. This law has been repealed.
That's excellent. Yeah. It's unfortunate that it took one of those real life scenarios where somebody had to deal with that. You being that somebody, right? But it's excellent that the law has changed and nobody else is going to have to deal with that. Now, was it like a three strike law or like is that what it was? What was so?
Well, that's exactly what it was. I was arrested a couple times for that, and some minor charges, a couple ounces here and there.
Yeah.
And this time they decided being a third count, it was either, work for me, inform for me, or else we're going to.
Yeah. So they want to make an example out of you.
And that's exactly right, and that's exactly what the judge and the prosecutor said.
Oh wow! So you had two prior convictions for some nonviolent minor possession, I would imagine, of cannabis, and then the third possession, then they just threw the book at you.
Right. And the third possession was I had 3.5 grams of marijuana in my pocket. And I met with some other people that had some weed.
Uh-huh.
Never met them before in my life, never talked to them before, but I had taken a friend over there. And it just doesn't seem to matter if you're there. They've got this law called acting in concert.
Oh, so what does that mean?
Um, if you're there, you can basically be considered guilty. I mean,
Yeah, because you're just
you're
in the
supposed to have
area.
to show knowledge and intent and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
so I ended up with a possession with intent to distribute because they had about 2.5 pounds.
Okay.
Okay.
And you're just
Because
there.
what I had in my pocket, and even though they were talking in Spanish that I didn't understand it,
Yeah.
didn't seem to matter at all. It just that's how the mindset was back in that day.
Yeah.
You know, today I don't think it would ever happen.
Yeah. I mean, if you're there's probably you would hope somebody that you could to at least speak to, not to say that nothing would happen, but life without parole, you know what I mean? Like, why would you be charged with an intent to distribute, 2.5 pounds of cannabis when you only had 3.5 grams in your pocket?
Because I was there.
Right. Yeah, yeah. So okay. So you were arrested in '93.
Mhm.
You said you were sentenced in '94.
Right.
So what happens from there? Like, what's that process like?
Well, you go to on your way to prison. You start out in Fulton. You end up there at the diagnostic center, one of the diagnostic centers they have.
Mm-hmm.
And with me, I was there for about 4 or 5 months, I think. And I went to Potosi.
Okay.
At that time, that was known as the death camp.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, that's right about when they were doubling everything up from a 500 prison to 1,000, I believe.
Okay. So the population doubled.
Doubled, right?
Oh wow. Did they have the space for that?
And, they'll one at a time. They'll march you through here or there.
Yeah.
Sleeping quarters could have been a little better because it was designed for one man cells, but
But they just made them work for
they're
two.
going to do what they're going to do, right?
Yeah. Okay. So how long were you in Potosi for?
I was there for about a year, I guess.
Okay.
And then had the case overturned.
Okay. What do you mean the case was overturned?
It was overturned under what they call a lesser including offense
Okay.
that was brought up. And then we went, sat there for a couple more months waiting for them to come and get me back from Benton County. They come and got me. We went there and
Mm-hmm.
waited for trial, went to trial again.
Okay. So you went back to trial, and then it was just the same result?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, Benton County, you remember it's a small city, small town.
Yeah.
A lot of farmers, older people in that area, and there wasn't much education at that time.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I imagine just to set the stage for the folks, I mean, we're in rural county, Missouri, where the idea of cannabis is just so frowned upon, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I can't imagine that I know the views have changed today compared to then, but in certain small areas, I can't imagine some of the people who are still living there probably even hold some of the same views. Like, what were those views at the time?
Like normal, it used to be you got picked up for anything.
Yeah,
You were innocent until they found you guilty.
yeah,
In my opinion anymore, if they pick you up, you're guilty until you can prove yourself innocent.
right.
And I've just seen too much.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Just call you a doper, a loser,
very exactly
troublemaker.
Very much in a small community back then.
Yeah,
It was quite a bit worse.
yeah,
And to them, you were the bad guy, and that was it. They didn't understand. They were sitting there believing what our government taught them for so long. They watched all the paranoia films and everything else. So
right.
you can't really blame them without them knowing or anybody getting out there letting them know the true information.
Yeah, man, it's a real shame. There's just so much misinformation that's just been going around for decades, you know what I mean? Where it's just everybody thought that, if you smoke cannabis, you're a bad person. And there's just all this propaganda that was going around, to make people think of all these negative things with smoking marijuana or just anything associated with it, right? Like if you're smoking cannabis, then you're probably a thief or you're some sort of criminal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just all of the benefits of it were just never shown to the people.
How true.
Yeah. So
True.
many people were lied to. So you had it overturned, and then, so you went back to trial, right?
Hmm.
And then same result. So where'd you go from there?
You go back to Fulton,
Back to Fulton.
right? And when I was there, they sent me down to Texas for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Decided my sentence was too long. It was too bad of a guy to go be down there, so they brought me back up and went to the walls, JCCC,
Okay. So that's in
and
Jefferson City
Jefferson
Correctional.
City.
Okay.
And I was there until we closed the old walls down. I guess they used to call that the bloodiest 40 yards or bloodiest 40 acres
Is that
in Missouri.
yeah? Is that the one that is right in Jefferson City with like the big wall, or is that
Right.
okay? Yeah. So it's weird. I mean, like I said, I grew up in Jefferson or in Potosi for until I was like 12, and then we moved to Jefferson City. So I'm very familiar with that prison right there. I've never been inside of it. I know they've done some tours and different things there since it's closed down. But
Mm.
so you were there for how many years?
Well, that'd been from about 96 all the way up to when they closed it, or 2006, I guess.
Okay.
No, it might have been 96.
So a good decade you were there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So in all this time where you're in there, um, did you ever just like lose hope? Like this is where you're going to be at forever? I mean that's what the sentence was.
Yeah, but there's a lot of guys in there that do.
Yeah.
And when they do, it just seems like they just all fall apart and then anything will happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided very early that wasn't going to be the case. I
Yeah.
wasn't going to let them win. What I was doing was right, wasn't wrong.
Right.
And I truly believe that in my heart. So I went on and said, this can't be the end. It's not going to be. Sooner or later, it's going to change.
Yeah. So during this time, like what do you, like what's your day like in like what's a typical day like in prison, or like what did you do for, did you have a trade while you're in there, or
I worked at the furniture factory while I was there.
okay.
I became what they call a lead man there on a crew and taught the other guys how to stain and finish furniture.
Okay. Did you have prior experience with that before going into?
I've worked as a mechanic, as a carpenter, finished carpenter,
Yeah.
all my life.
Okay.
So I started working very young.
Okay. So yeah, tell me a little bit like before all of this. Like what was life like growing up? Like so you're from Missouri. Just tell me through
No,
like
actually, I grew up in Chicago, Illinois.
okay, so you're from Chicago.
Right.
Okay.
And I joined the military as soon as I was of age. Went down to Lackland Air Force Base.
Okay.
Then went up to Shepherd Air Force Base for training and ended up on Whiteman at Knobnoster here in Missouri.
Oh, okay.
Liked the area so much, I decided to stay. I met a woman back then, got married, and had a couple children here in Missouri. And
Okay. How long were you in the military for?
Active was between 1971 and 1975.
Okay. And then you stayed in like the reserves?
No, but you get 6-year commitment. We had 2 years that are in reserves, but it's not an active reserve.
Oh, okay. I got you. And you're in the Air Force?
Right.
Oh, okay. During that time, were they, I know now, like, they do a lot of the Air Force basic training in, like, San Antonio. Where were they sending?
That's where I went to.
Okay.
Lackland and San Antonio.
That Lackland, yeah, that is in San Antonio. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Man. So they had you bouncing around a little bit, and then you just ended up in Missouri. You just liked it, so you stayed there, huh?
Right.
Okay. Okay. And then, so you got out, and then you were just kind of just working just different jobs?
After I got out, I fell back on what I grew up learning. Of course, mechanical work
Yeah.
and some concrete work, and ended up doing carpentry work and construction. Actually worked in our nuclear plant here in Missouri.
Okay.
Helped pour concrete in our.
Yeah. Were you a mechanic in the Air Force as well?
No, I was actually a heavy equipment operator.
Oh, really?
Dozers, cranes.
Oh man, yeah, that's that's like one of those things. It's like the inner child in you. Like it's like a big toy.
Yeah, it is for a little while, but it gets to be work.
I'm
real
I'm
quick.
sure it does. Is it hot in that cabin?
At times.
Yeah, I can imagine so. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I can only imagine what that would be like. Building, during in prison, working like doing carpentry and different things. Like, how much do they pay you for that? Is it like cents on the hour?
I was one of the highest paying guys there, Lehman, and I believe it was 71 cents an hour.
Oh man. Yeah, and then on the outside, what do you think you would have made doing that same work?
We figured out that the whole factory of all the guys that had working down there, what they had to pay them, because we were trying to ask for a little bit more raise.
Yeah.
What it took to pay all the inmates that were there,
Mm-hmm.
if they weren't there and they had to pay a couple of journeymen, they would have been able to hire 3 people.
3 journeymen.
And we had like 60 people there.
Oh wow.
So
Man, so like 20 people for one person.
there you go.
Man. Wow. I don't know how I would feel about that situation. But I guess it's just kind of one of those things where you just deal with it.
There you go.
You just have no. I mean,
You know, you didn't get paid much money,
yeah,
but it helped keep me sane. And
Yeah.
I know it helps a lot of other guys keep sane. It also a lot of them guys are getting out,
mm-hmm.
and when they come in, they have no job
No skills.
experience at all or no skills. A lot of them no skills or very little skills. Some of them think they have skills.
Yeah,
So it gives them an opportunity to come down there and learn. It's supposed to be more of a teaching type situation.
mm-hmm.
Of course, the state's going to make money on what they do if they can.
Yeah,
So it's kind of a mixture there. But
right.
it is really designed, and it does quite a bit. Teach some of these guys how to do something and even learn how to work.
Yeah,
And come to work and have to be responsible for something.
yeah. Having that structure that a lot of them probably didn't have.
Right.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people have gone to jail and lost their freedom over like nonviolent cannabis crimes, possession, even if it's just selling or whatever the case may be, and then I would imagine that being thrown into the prison system, which is privatized, which is an issue on its own. Have you ever seen or experienced to where people are worse off for that situation? You know what I mean? Like you're put into a more dangerous situation, or you know what I mean? You're just exposed to more now than you would have been with otherwise.
Well, believe me, all prisons are our training grounds. Somebody comes in with a minor offense, possession or drugs, nonviolent.
Yeah.
Let's face it, we do have people in prison that need to be in prison.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I mean, we got to have them.
Mm-hmm.
But you're throwing the nonviolent person in with people like that in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you get your sexual predators that are roaming around in there as well.
Yeah.
And you get, say for instance, maybe an 18-year-old guy walk in the door, never been to prison before in his life. All of a sudden you got 4, 5, 6 people around you telling you you're going to do this or else. You know, you're gonna call your family. We know you're into drugs. You're gonna tell them you want them to bring some up during visit, this or that. Or you're gonna have them send money to my account, or, could be even worse than that.
Yeah.
Now, I don't care how big and bad you are. You got 5 or 6 guys standing around you that this one's in for murder, this one's in for 3 or 4 murders, this one's in here for rape, this one's in here for that. You better start thinking real quick and hard. And if you got any brains, you better start swinging
Yeah.
right off the bat. So now you're taking a nonviolent youngster and making him violent.
Out of no choice.
And that happens a lot. Not every time, but it does happen.
Yeah.
And that's some of the bad scenarios. I've seen it go as bad as somebody come in with a nonviolent and end up in a fight, hurting somebody the wrong way or doing the wrong thing and end up with a long sentence.
Yeah. Sentence gets extended because just the circumstances that they had to deal with.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah. I've seen I, I've read and I've seen like a documentary. It was on the county jail in Miami-Dade in Miami-Dade
Hmm.
County, and it was a scenario where you'd see over and over where like this is the environment and like these are the rules. It's a different set of rules on the inside than on the outside, and you have to live by those rules, or otherwise you just get eaten alive.
Well, you got a double set of rules while you're inside.
What is
You
that?
got what they want you to do, and then you got the guidelines of, what all the inmates or convicts,
Yeah,
and now you got a line to walk.
that's true. Yeah,
So,
so it's
and
like the rules and like the real rules.
right, because you got people that ain't never coming home that don't think twice about cutting your throat,
Yeah.
and then you got the guards on the other end. Everybody else is in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
So
How do you navigate those waters?
yeah, yeah, I don't know if there's a set of rules.
Yeah.
Common sense.
It's common sense.
Don't gamble. You don't take anything from anybody, and you don't accept gifts.
Yeah.
If somebody comes up with you, stand up for yourself. Because if you don't, nobody's going to stand up for you.
Now, if you stand up for yourself, could it lead to like worse repercussions? Could there be more issues because of that, or is it
Well,
just one of those things you just kind of have to deal with? 'Cause it's going to be worse if you don't.
it's going to be worse if you don't. And just depends on how far it could go escalating. But usually, if you stand up for yourself, you in most cases, somebody's going to be tested. So it was when I came in, and if they see that you're going to stand up for yourself, then basically the masses leave you alone,
Kind of
and
get some respect.
you get your respect, right?
Yeah. Is respect a really big currency on the inside?
That's the biggest problem. But I think it's a big problem out here too.
What's that?
Respect.
There's not enough?
And the problem is, a lot of the younger guys that came in there said, "You're going to show me respect, and I'm going to demand this and demand that." And I said, "Man, you ain't going to live."
Yeah.
And they look at you and say, "You do not demand respect. You earn respect. And the only way you're going to earn respect is by giving respect."
You're right.
And a lot of them can't grasp that because they're never taught that.
You're right.
They don't have respect in a lot of cases, unfortunately, for their own parents.
Mm-hmm. Do they even respect themselves?
And that's where it all starts. No, they think they do. They think they know what they're doing. They think they have it, and they're going to demand it, and boom, boom, boom. They think that's the way of life.
Yeah.
Because somehow or another, they were never taught anything different.
Right. Man, so yeah, I can imagine after you've settled in, if you will. You've been in there for a while. You probably just saw a lot of just young men just cycling through, and just the same story and over.
A lot of them over and over, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the best thing the best thing I could do was get them off the side and talk to them. Say, "Look, hey, this is what happened to me. This is what's going on in my life.
Yeah.
Think of the things you're going to miss." Well, I was had grandkids. My youngest grandchild at the time got married 2 weeks before I got out. I have a younger one now, but that was my youngest grandchild at the time. I got to see her one or two times through her whole life.
Yeah.
And that was for about an hour and a half across the table, except for when she run around and jump on my lap, which was not supposed to be allowed.
Yeah, they don't allow you to touch, right?
Right. But, they had to deal with her on that.
It's like, hey, man, this is what we're doing.
Right. So you miss a lot of that. And then while you're in there, both my parents passed away.
Yeah.
You can't go to that, and you can't replace that. Several other family members pass.
Wow. They don't allow you like furlough to get out of it.
No.
Oh wow.
Oh, no. So you miss all of that. But think about picking up the phone and finding out your mom's got cancer and she's only got X amount of time to live and can't afford to come up and see you.
Yeah.
And you know you can't go see them.
Mhm.
And you start thinking about things like that and getting them to feel that.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had some success stories. We've got quite a few people I talked to that come out and become successful in business
Yeah.
and things like that. But a lot of them come out and they try. They really, really, really try.
Yeah.
But it's so hard for some of them to get a job, or it's so hard for them to find a place to live.
Yeah.
And
It's a life
because,
sentence, whether you're in there or not.
right, just like when I got arrested the first time for a couple ounces of weed back years ago, that one thing kept me from going on different jobs, higher paying jobs, which would have helped.
Right. And it keeps you.
And that was way back then. Hell, I even had my insurance canceled one time. So, oh, you were arrested for this. We can cancel your insurance,
Yeah.
house insurance.
Yeah. It's like, how do you function in normal society at that point?
Right. So you thought, what the heck's going on here? But that's how it was.
Right.
So
Yeah, man.
our industry's come a long ways.
We really have, because I mean that's still a real issue, right? I mean, if you get one sentence, whether you, even if you supposedly served your sentence, you never really serve it. It doesn't really end.
Never.
You still have this big mark on your file, if you will, just saying that, oh, you're a convict, and now it's harder to get jobs, it's harder to find places to live, it's just harder to just be a regular person, when in reality, like, you've already served your time, so why are you still serving, is what I don't understand.
I don't know, and I can't figure it out. We're working to try to get that changed because
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. Once you get a record, that record stays with you at all times.
Right.
But when you get sentenced, you do what supposedly is fit for a crime, time for a crime at that
Right.
time, or your fines or anything like that,
Right.
and it's taken care of. Where you supposedly done what was right for society at that point.
Right.
So why do you have that record following you around saying, well, 15 years ago you got arrested for 2 ounces of marijuana. We can't have you working here.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that's one of those things that really has to change. And you know what I mean? I can actually understand if somebody has a violent past, and if we say they serve time and then they get out, I can almost understand at least having that record of saying, like, this person might be susceptible to violence, so we have this understanding. But if you're not hurting anybody, well, first of all, it's a waste of resources, and nobody should go to jail for plants and nature anyway. Never. But it happened. So if that is the case, then those people should not be still being punished for that. You know what I mean? Like, we shouldn't still hold them to some crazy standard. It's not even a standard. It's just a punishment where you're just a slave, really.
Well, in reality, when you get arrested and something like that goes on and it's on your record,
Yeah.
you get punished for the rest of your life.
Right. And I have a real issue because we punish a lot of young men, which we found out that, like, the brain isn't even fully formed until you're like 25.
Right.
So a lot of young men, especially, like, we're irrational creatures. We just do things, like, without thinking, like, for whatever reason, and just young people in general. So the idea that we're going to judge somebody from, like, when they were 21, if we're going to judge them as the same as whenever they're like 40 or 50, like, those are two different people, or, you know what I mean? So it's people change and people grow, right?
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Unless they're stifled and they're not allowed to, which also happens in prison a lot of times. Right?
Yeah.
When you go in, wherever
Where
you're at,
is where you're
it
at.
seems like you seem to freeze there, so.
Yeah. Yeah, you do see that a lot. A lot of guys, like, they'll get out of prison, and it's just they just kind of picked up right where they left off, and
Right.
they just go back to whatever life that they had.
Well, another sad thing is a lot of these nonviolent crimes, they come in there, they have to go through all the indignities of being there and everything else. Their families being hurt because they're not there as part of it anymore.
Yeah.
And then you got these guys that come in that are hurting people, that are raping women and children.
Right.
and they come in and do a little bit of time and go out. Come in, do a little bit of time and go out.
Yeah. What's it like
You
to
know,
witness that?
it's really heartbreaking. And then you sit there and wonder, well, what the hell happened in the United States? What's going on here?
Yeah.
When you can hurt a child, physically hurt, rape, scar for life, and go do a little bit of time and then get back out. And I realize they're supposed to be on a register and everything else, but in a lot of cases that don't stop nothing.
Right.
But yet, going there under a nonviolent crime,
Right.
such as marijuana in my case, and being there forever.
Right.
That's what went on my mind. In other words, what the hell's wrong?
Yeah. So what are the guards like during so I mean is obviously you're kind of dealing with everything with this side like those being the prisoners like the other the other population, but then there's this pressure on the other side, right, that you talked about. You said there's two sets of roles. So
Well, sure.
what's it like dealing with them? Do they kind of run the gauntlet, or are there some good ones?
There's a
are
lot
there
of
some
good
bad
ones.
ones? Or
There's
like,
a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
And just like anywhere else, you got good ones and bad ones.
Are they running the
Some
spectrum as
some
well?
of them think that they got their chest out and you're going to do every little thing I say and this and that. And some of them understand what's going on and say, hey, this is what we got to do. You got to do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
It's
And
like-
we'll leave you alone. You do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, it's like
And
this
we're
is
just
my
keeping
job
an
and
eye
we'll
on
just
you.
be good.
Exactly right. So, I had trouble with a few guards, but overall, they were really pretty professional.
Yeah.
Did a good job for real, and that's a tough job.
It is a tough job.
It's tough for the convict or inmate, as they like to say nowadays, and it's tough for the guards.
Yeah.
But and just like anything else, a lot of times the guys they're too puny on this or they're too nitpicky
Yeah.
but they got a higher up to go to the same way as everybody else.
It's like that saying, shit rolls downhill, right?
Exactly right. And if you're in prison, you're at the very bottom.
Oh man, you just gotta eat the shit sandwich, huh?
There you go.
Oh man. So okay, so at what point did things kind of start turning to where you felt like there? Because I mean I remember I came across your story. There was a very big push to like really like right or wrong and help get you out, and that probably went on for a number of years. Actually, I can remember.
A couple of years at least.
Yeah, just to really try to get you out. Like when was that? As far as that change, like walk me through that.
Well, I've been out 3 years ago, September 1st,
2015.
2015.
So you were in for just over 21 years.
Right. Almost 22 years.
Almost 22 years. And it took how long to get you out? Now your son really led that push, right?
Yes.
Chris?
Chris actually got with Show Me Cannabis at the time. It was one of the first bills that they had for legalization of marijuana.
Yeah.
And they had a meeting beforehand, I guess, in some of the planning stages, and they asked, went around and asked everybody, well, why are you here? What's your reason for being here? And Chris says, well, I believe in the legalization. Besides that, my dad's doing life without the possibility of parole over marijuana, and at that time nobody could believe it.
Yeah,
and
it's shocking to hear.
Right, and then they asked a few questions. Well, what else? With guns involved, somebody get shot, boom, boom, boom. And he said, no, nothing like that.
Yeah.
And it took them a while to even digest it and even go and check on it because they couldn't believe it neither.
Yeah.
And a lot of these were lawyers. So finally they had the time to take a look at it and found out, hey, Chris wasn't telling no lies. That's the way it is. Speaking of Chris, he just walked in the room.
Right here.
My son there. So, excuse me. So they got to thinking about it, and next thing you know, they got to talking about it on the air and stuff when they were talking about the legalization effort. And
Yeah.
actually, that started a little bit with Show Me Cannabis, and word was getting out. And an old boy here from the Riverfront Times, right here in St. Louis,
Nice.
he wrote a piece, and it was so fantastic that it caught everybody's attention, and it really caught fire. And that was a piece done by Ray Downs
Okay. What was
in
that in?
the Riverfront
That was
Times.
all Ray Downs in the Riverfront Times?
Right.
Okay.
And Chris said the day that came out, I think he got a telephone call from a woman out of California.
Oh, wow.
Said, I can't believe this. Boom, boom, boom.
It's a
And,
powerful piece.
right. And it just spread and spread. Next thing I know, it seemed like it was just steamrolling.
Yeah.
And then they had about 450,000 signatures that they
Yeah.
collected, if I remember right.
Yeah, I know a lot of us signed it.
And then Shamed Dogan from here, representative here in St. Louis, heard my story, come and talk to me.
Okay.
And he stood up and told me, he said, I can't believe that. And I was going to help. This when he was a freshman, just got in.
Okay.
So he's going to help any way he could. And to answer your question earlier, I think that's really one of the first times that even though everything else was going on, I knew that was doing something, because now all of a sudden you got a representative coming to
Right.
see you. So that was the first time that, whoa, it's really working, you know.
Yeah.
It really
Started to actually become real.
right, because we know people have been talking about legalization of marijuana for years and years and years, but
Yeah.
that don't mean the government was doing anything about it. In fact, there's a lot of times they're still fighting it.
Oh, yeah.
So now the representatives are coming and asking questions and stuff and getting involved. And it turned out that most of the House of Representatives and senators signed a letter to the governor telling him to let me out.
Yeah. Yeah, you had a lot of backing, and I can remember just thinking that I was having a hard time understanding what was taking the governor so long to pardon you, because it just seemed like such an obvious thing. It was, we have a guy here who's he's been sentenced to life without parole. He served 2 decades plus of his life already, and it's just literally as simple as writing up the document and signing it. Why are we dragging our feet here? I just couldn't understand it.
Right, but I didn't get a pardon. My sentence got commuted.
Okay, it was commuted.
It was commuted from a life without to a life sentence.
Okay.
And then I went in front of the parole board.
Okay. So once you got out on parole, are there any stipulations? I'm not really familiar with
Every
the
stipulation every other parolee has.
Yeah.
You can't be around drugs. You can't be around another convicted felon.
Yeah, so there's all of that.
No drinking, none of this. Plus the rules of
Yeah.
regular rules and laws.
Yeah, so regular rules and laws. So I guess,
And then you get to pay for that too.
yeah, I was gonna say, when you get out of prison, there's a bill with that. Is that correct?
Right. There's a set amount for each person that you have to pay each month.
Yeah.
While you're on parole.
While you're on parole.
Right. And if they tell you have to go through so many classes as condition of your parole, you got to sign up for those classes and go through them, and
Yeah.
you have to pay for them as well.
Wow. How long were you on parole for?
I was on parole just a little short of 3 years.
Okay, and you just recently got off of parole?
Right.
Was that an amazing thing?
Yeah, it was shocking.
I
I couldn't believe they really let me off parole. Did
it even feel real?
No, because even walking out the door when I come around that corner at the prison, it kind of didn't feel real then neither.
It's this is a cruel joke.
Yeah, I was waiting for somebody to come around the corner and grab me and take me back. You know?
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. So you're just recently on parole or off of parole. Have you been able to take it a trip out to Colorado or anything and
No, I haven't. Unfortunately,
checked out that market or anything?
22 years in prison, you don't make a whole heck of a lot of money at 71 or 73 cents an hour, whichever it was. So, no.
No, I don't.
It takes money to do that. The only time I
100%.
travel is if I'm able to speak at a convention or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And,
have you been doing much speaking since you've gotten out? I know you've done a little bit. What's kind of been your focus since gotten out? I mean, I imagine just life, spending time with family, but obviously you seem pretty passionate about still, fixing the system, if you will.
I've been around quite a few places across this country: Washington D.C., Seattle, Maryland, California, Texas, just to name a few of them.
Yeah, see, you've been all over. Just speaking, telling your story at all these places.
Speaking, telling a story, and trying to get some social justice done, some help for the people that are still in on nonviolent crimes,
Yeah,
and not just here in Missouri, but of course here in Missouri as well, but across our nation, because
right.
it just needs to be done. I mean, there's a lot of people don't realize there's still. The last time I looked, it was somewhere a little over 2,000 people still in jail doing a life or a life without sentence
Oh, wow.
over nonviolent crimes. And that's not counting your, maybe 30 years, 20 years, or 10
Right,
years. That's just life and life without.
right. That's not any of the other
Right.
sentences.
And that's state and federal, not just state.
Okay.
And that's really a big injustice that we, the people, have to change.
100%. Yeah, I have a real issue with how we treat nonviolent offenses, and in particular, like drug offenses. We treat them as criminal issues. Well, I guess not just separate like the nonviolent, but yeah, I mean, if just drug offenses, we treat them as criminal issues as opposed to like health issues. If somebody really is like they're heavily addicted to like heroin, for example, instead of like locking that person up and like throwing away a key, like that's a burden on the system alone, because now they're like their whole system's going to be shocked, and then now there's just all these steps, right? Like somebody has to arrest them, and then we have to like process them, and then there's a judge, and that's a big cost to the system, and that could potentially ruin that person's whole life, because like you said, once they get out, now there's this label on you. As opposed to doing that, like, why don't we offer them like a safe alternative? It's like, all right, well, if we treat this as a health issue, like, do you want to get off of this? Like, are you like, we can help you with that. Or if you are going to do it, why don't we provide like a safe means, so that way we don't run a risk of like you getting infected or something like that. Like we've seen it work in other places. I don't understand why we don't really do that here as well.
Well, you just said it.
Yeah, it just
I
blows
mean,
me away.
think about it. Somebody arresting, going to court, lawyers, judges,
Yeah,
prosecutors.
privatized penal systems. I mean,
What's it all come down to?
the almighty dollar, my friend.
And what's really a shame is it's all coming out of taxpayers' pockets.
Right.
And it can be done better, cheaper, and designed to help somebody, not hurt them.
Right.
And I know we as a people can do that. And I don't have all the answers, obviously, but we get a lot of smart individuals across the United States here, so why don't they get their heads together and do something?
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. There's definitely a better way to do it. 100%. So what's next for you? Obviously, you spoke yesterday here at the Mocana BizCon. This huge expo. It's excellent. What's on the horizon for you?
Well, I've been trying to work in my house and get it together.
Yeah.
So I do that whenever I can, whenever I can afford to do anything on it,
Yeah.
of course, like everybody else. And hey, it's medically legal here. And
That's amazing.
I can't get into business because I'm not 5 years parole free.
Oh.
But I can still stay active in it, speaking in different places and giving out information. And let's face it, that is the key.
Yeah.
Education is the key. And there's a lot of places that still need educated, even still here in Missouri.
Oh, absolutely.
Eventually, I would like to see what they call recreational come in.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, there is no recreational. It's all medical in a way. Because if you talk to doctors, they tell you stress is one of the biggest killers that we have.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, people come home, sit down and grab a glass of wine and drink it. Why? To relieve stress.
Right.
people come home and grab a joint or however they care to indulge and smoke it or eat it.
Right.
What's that do? Relieve the stress.
Right.
So isn't that medically?
100%. And on top of that, it's been shown to actually help the body as opposed to, like alcohol, which tends to harm the body. It's hard on the liver. I mean, there's definitely some studies that show like a glass of red wine might have some heart health or something like that. But in general, cannabis is a much healthier alternative.
True. But on the other hand, this is American. We're supposed to be free.
Yeah.
And what I've been fighting for all along was for people to have their choice of what they'd like to do.
100%.
And I don't want to put somebody else down for having a shot of booze or whatever. If that's what they enjoy, damn it, they should be able to do that.
As simple as that.
America.
Yeah.
If they want to roll up a joint and smoke it, they should be able to do that as well.
Yeah.
Without the fear of somebody knocking their door down and hauling them off to jail.
100%.
And that's just the way I feel. Cause I grew up in the real America. I grew up in the 60s, early 60s. So
Yeah.
I know what it was like and what it is now. And it should be nice to be back there again.
Yeah, man. Times seem to be getting better with the laws, thank goodness. So,
I'll tell you a little story. When I was growing up, there's a bunch of us heading out to the lake, and we was all underage now, mind you, and we was heading out to the lake, out in the woods, and had a couple of cases of beer in the trunk, and of course we had a couple of bags of marijuana with us as well.
yeah.
We got stopped on the way out, which was pretty much normal, searched,
Yeah.
and they find the beer, and they pour the beer out, and they look at the weed, they look at it, put it back up on top of the car, and tell us, now, you behave and you all go out there and have a good time, but we better not catch you drinking in our area anymore. And it give you a bag of weed back, all the way to ended up going to prison for the rest of my life for a couple of grams.
Yeah.
And then now back to this.
Yeah.
And this is just infant steps. This business is going to grow. The people are going to be able to thrive and use what they want and be able to take care of themselves the way they want.
Yeah.
And we need to not forget those that are still locked up. And let's work on prison reform. Let's work on equality and get equal for everybody and get our men and women out of prison for nonviolent crimes.
Yeah, 100%.
And stop this nonsense of being thrown in jail for marijuana.
Yeah.
So, yes, we won a battle, but the war still goes on.
Yeah, it's still going on. I mean, for the listeners who don't know, I mean, it's still illegal federally.
Exactly.
We're over the quote-unquote tipping point. There's more than half of the states that have legalized some form of cannabis consumption, whether that's medical or recreation. But it's still illegally illegally on the federal level, and it's a class 1 scheduled narcotic.
Right.
So we still have a long way to go. We're not there yet, but we're definitely getting there. We're seeing a lot of good things with like the CBD laws. Do you use CBD at all? Have you?
Yes, I've tried some CBD, and it's worked miraculously.
Yeah.
I've seen it work on a lot of people.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, when I was roaming around the state collecting signatures for legalization of medical, I talked to hundreds and hundreds of people that were doing the CBD and the other oil as well.
Yeah.
And they were all being forced to break in the law and going across state lines to go get what they thought they needed for their health care. And in a lot of their cases, I was talking to guys that said they sent me home from the hospital 2 years ago telling me I was going to die in 2 months. Just get everything in order. But I tried this oil, and I'm completely cancer-free now.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Or a woman coming in and with her child in a stroller saying, my child hadn't had a seizure in 6 months.
Yeah.
We give her 1 drop every other day. And she was having seizures so bad she was busting the bones in her legs before that.
Yeah. It's completely life-changing.
I can go, and basically I'm a nobody. And I could go around anywhere just asking for people to sign for legalization effort and hear these stories. Why don't our senators and representatives hear this? Why can't they see it themselves?
Yeah. Or are they just ignoring it?
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
I hope not. I know all of them's not. Uh, I can't believe that wrong in any people.
yeah.
To know how it can help children and others, and our veterans, 22 a day dying,
Yeah.
committing suicide from PTSD.
Yeah.
And I would be willing to bet that's really not a low number, the 22.
Yeah, that's not accurate. It's probably more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been around the country, like I told you, different places, and the veterans saying, well, I can smoke this or I can eat this, and it helps me, but it's not legal in my state.
Yeah.
So they're living where they're at, homeless,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want to take any more money from their families than what they have to. Almost like being in prison. You're stuck there, and your family feels like, well, we need to send you some money, but it's hurting that family.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, so if we could just get these people access to, to safe medicine that actually works, we could definitely change a lot of lives.
exactly.
Absolutely. Well, Jeff, I really appreciate you taking the time. I don't want to take any more of your time. This has been an excellent conversation. I want to leave the floor to you if there is anything that you'd like to plug. I don't know if you have any sponsors or a website or just any place you would like to direct people. Leave that's up to you.
You know, I really don't use time like this for sponsors or anything like this. I like to use it for the people, for our guys and girls that are still locked up, for the ones that can't help themselves,
Yeah.
and also for the people, to remind them that our government works for us, or at least they're supposed to. We pay their bills. We're supposed to tell them what we want, and they're supposed to do that. And the only way that works, unfortunately, is to register to vote. You have to get involved. And I say unfortunately register to vote because unfortunately a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
If it was as simple as just being able to walk in without having to register and vote, we might get a lot more people in there.
Yeah.
But I can see the reason why I register, don't get me wrong. But everybody needs to do that. It's unnecessary evil, in my opinion, because the only way they're going to hear your voice is through your vote.
Yeah.
Or if you go to their meetings where they're talking about where they're trying to be elected and they tell you, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. If you think about it, that's a contract they're making with you. And if they don't do it and you help vote that person and they don't do it, you know what? We have the option to vote their asses out and get somebody in there that's going to work for us.
Yeah.
If we've been doing this for the last 15, 20 years, I think where would we be now?
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that's really where, and I've been guilty of like not registering to vote in the past and saying, oh man, my vote doesn't matter. And I kind of still feel that way like for like the presidential election, but when it comes to like local and state, like your vote 100% matters. Like you really, it's really up to you to go out and exercise your voice and your vote and change. If you don't like what's going on in your community and what's going on in your state, you really do have to get out and vote and express your opinion. It's important.
Exactly right. And everybody's opinion ain't going to be the same, and that's all right.
Right.
That's what makes this a democracy. Put it out there, and if everybody else likes it, you'll get enough votes to get it done. Hey, medical marijuana in Missouri legal.
Yeah.
Who would have thought it was
Yeah.
going to be possible, and especially with the, was it 63, 65% approval?
Yeah, 60 something. It was a lot. And I think actually I saw that they immediately put on the docket to be reviewed this next session here in 2019 to be reviewed for recreational as well. It'll be full recreation, except there won't be actual like sales, so you can't go to like an actual store. It'd be kind of similar to Washington D.C., where you can still possess and own and use, but everybody will also have the ability to grow like 6 plants and cultivate. So
I
Yeah.
have to
So
check that out.
yeah. So hopefully that goes through. That would be pretty exciting stuff. It's just one more step to where we need to get going in Missouri. So.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, again, thank you so much, man. You have such a powerful story. I really appreciate you sharing it, and you going around the country and fighting the good fight and really, spreading the awareness and trying to change things. Like, it's so important. I just can't thank you enough. So I really appreciate you, sir.
Thanks for having me
All
on.
right. Thanks again, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Until next time.